it would not be wise to get your historical information about Jesus from the Quran. I say that because the Quran provides several facts about Jesus that are not actually facts at all. For example, the Quran claims that Jesus was sent down the gospel by Allah as a book. The gospel is not a book. The gospel is an event. It is contained within writings known as the four gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But the gospel itself is not a book. It is an event. It is the death of Christ on the cross for the sins of the world and his resurrection from the dead, which the Quran denies. Furthermore, we also need to understand that the Quran has stories that are outside the New Testament time that Allah claims are divine revelations from himself to Gabriel, who gives them to Muhammad. For example, the Quran says that Jesus spoke from the cradle, and then we know that that comes from a later document known as the Empty Gospel of Thomas, where Jesus speaks from the cradle. But we also need to understand, though, that the Quran also reports that Jesus took clay and fashioned birds out of them, and they came to life. That is also from a later document outside the time of the New Testament, outside the time of the first century. But the primary reason that nobody should get their information with regards to the historicity of Jesus from the Quran is because the Quran denies the most well-attested to fact of Jesus' life, even according to Bart Ehrman, who the Muslims love to use whenever they try to, of course, throw the textual variants in our face. But here's the thing. We fully admit that there are textual variants within the New Testament. We don't hide that fact. We give you footnotes, and we tell you where they're at. Now, the Quran, on the other hand, does not admit to variants or anything of that nature. But yet people have dedicated whole research groups to show where the Quran variants are. But I digress. The most important fact to understand is that the Quran denies the crucifixion of Christ, which is, as I said, according to Bart Ehrman, the most well-attested to fact of history. And yet the Quran gets it wrong. So if the Quran gets the most well-attested to fact of Jesus' life wrong, then why in the world would 1.6 billion Muslims trust that the Quran is telling them the truth about their eternal destiny?